Okay guys, welcome to chapter 2. In this chapter we're going to talk about finding suppliers for the micro niche that you've selected. Now, before we get into it, let's look at the game plan. And again, this is just a flow chart of the order that you're going to go through the chapters, and as you probably realize by now, the organization and structure of the training is exactly the same as the steps, the process flow that you'll go through when you actually create a store, start to finish. So let's look at the game plan right now. All right. As we mentioned in the introductory learning videos, we use what's called drop shipping, the drop shipping model, to source products, to provide products to our customers. And basically the way that the drop ship triangle is what I'm going to call it works is I have the website. I, being you, have your web store that you've put up, and then you have the manufacturer, aka drop shipper, who has agreed to let you list the products that they are inventorying on your web store. And when you sell a product to a consumer, to a visitor, the drop shipper, manufacturer, ships direct to that customer. So basically you have no, you have no upfront cost, and you don't have to warehouse or anything. You basically just list the products as if you were warehousing them, as if you actually had them in your possession, and you don't have to pay for them up front. So the manufacturer, the drop shipper, has said that they will sell these products to you at a discounted wholesale price, and you list them on your website. So the way it works is the consumer, the visitor, the shopper, purchases from you. For example, for $100 they might buy a product at retail price, so you sell it for $100. That's what you have it listed for at your site. And then the manufacturer, the drop shipper, says, we will ship that to your customer and we will charge you the wholesale price of $75. So once the customer pays you $100, you pay the drop shipper, the manufacturer, $75, and then they ship direct to your customer. So you never see the product or anything. Let's take a real quick look at a little sketch that I've done of basically the drop shipping triangle, how it works. Okay, so really, like I've already alluded to, the benefits are no upfront costs. You don't have to buy $10,000 worth of inventory. You don't need to have a warehouse. You don't need to handle shipping. You don't need to have any overhead at all. You don't need to purchase the products at that wholesale drop ship price until after you've sold the product. So really, you get before you even have to pay the drop shipper. Now that's the beauty of drop shipping. And there are a lot of people out on the web that you can find a lot of bad press about drop shipping. You'll find a lot of people saying drop shipping is a con, drop shipping is a scam, blah blah blah. But really, if you're using the dropship model correctly, if you know how to identify true wholesale dropshippers, and you find true wholesale dropshippers that communicate well with you and are responsible and handle orders properly and charge you true wholesale prices and not inflated quote-unquote wholesale prices that are basically the same as retail, the dropshipping model is beautiful. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I am today with e-commerce if it wasn't for the dropshipping model. Because when I started my first store, I was in debt up to my eyeballs. I didn't have enough money to pay my bills, let alone buy $10,000 worth of inventory. I lived in a 1,100 square foot house with my wife and my daughter, and there was no place to inventory product. I didn't know how to handle shipments. I didn't know how to buy in bulk. I didn't know how to manage an inventory. And, like I say, none of this, I wouldn't be here today teaching you about e-commerce if it wasn't for the drop shipping model. That being said, if you find a micro niche that you just have, huge hopes for, and you cannot find a manufacturer, a distributor that will drop ship for you. Sometimes it makes sense to start off by buying in small bulk if you have the money, and I wouldn't recommend doing this for your first or even second store. But later on, when you become a seasoned veteran, a pro at this, we've had markets before where in order to get into that market, we had to buy 3 or 4 of the product at a time and then ship it ourselves. And then after a couple months where, the manufacturer got to the point where they were like, wow, these guys are legit. They're making a lot of sales. They're buying quite a bit from us. And, we became closer with our contact there at the manufacturer. They started drop shipping for us. So sometimes it can be a way to get into a market, a way to get in with a manufacturer that typically doesn't drop ship. They tell you up front that they don't drop ship. But anyway, we'll get more into that later. The point I'm trying to get across is the drop shipping model works, and most of you are probably on a tight budget and you don't want to buy a bunch of inventory. And even if you're not on a tight budget, you probably still don't want to buy a lot of inventory. We avoid inventorying at all costs. So now, just real quick before we get going on the actual training and learning how to identify suppliers and find true drop shippers, let me quickly cover what's going to be covered in this chapter. I'm going to teach you how to identify brand names, identify the brands that the top competitors, the top ranking sites in Google are carrying, because that's what we want to also carry, is what the top sites are carrying. I'm going to teach you how to figure out who's manufacturing those brand names, who's actually, who's creating and warehousing those brand names. We're going to talk about considering getting a business entity set up. It's quick, simple, usually free or extremely cheap, and there are benefits to doing it, and we'll discuss whether or not you want to get a business entity later on in this chapter. We'll discuss making contact with the manufacturers, with the drop shippers, distributors, and we'll get into the differences between what a manufacturer is, what a distributor is, what a drop shipper is. A lot of times those phrases are used interchangeably, but there are differences that you should know. And then once you make contact and you're ready to establish an account, we'll talk about how to verify that you're going to be able to make decent margins, that you're going to be able to make a certain amount of money per order, and we'll also talk about how you gather the product information that you're going to need to build your store. So that's pretty much everything we're going to cover in Chapter 2, and let's get going on the different videos, the different sections within this chapter.